as far as going back to parts margin, though, you have to run it through a matrix. It needs to be producing, because at the end of the day, it has to be gross profit dollars per hour. So that requires you to know your expenses, to know that after I pay labor and after I pay for parts, I have to generate X amount of dollars for every hour that I'm open, for however many days I'm at work every single month. It has to be, there's a number there. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you're not charging enough for parts, it's going to be a lot harder, as you were stating earlier, to get to that number, because you have to do more in gross sales in order to generate that number, that underlying number that is going to be ever present every single minute of every single day that you're open. That number is accumulating, and you have to pay it down.
And if you do,
we're there. What holes do you typically see with shops that are sitting at 35, 40, 42% gross profit margin on parts? What do you typically see are causing that lower percentage?
The holes are in their head. All holes are in your head. It's all in your brain. So I can't charge that parts margin. Customer comes in and says, I can get this cheaper if I go buy it at wherever. You guys have had several posts on your Facebook group. My customer can go buy this part for cheaper than I can sell it to them. And the answer is, of course they can. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Every shop since I've been in business has been fighting the battle of, I can go buy it myself for less. Okay. But the hole is in your head, because you're saying, well, I don't want to have that kind of high margin, because then I'm going to be competed against other shops, and then my customer can go out and buy it. The problem is when the customer goes out and buys the part, let's say online, what does my part come with? Is it just a part that I put on your car and that's it?
Nope.
It comes with my bona fides, right? Bona fides. I say that it's a quality component because I purchased it for you. And then I warranty it because I believe it's a quality component. It's supposed to fit your car. It's supposed to not be counterfeit. It's supposed to come with a certain warranty. And I take the liability of those things on, and I also guarantee that when I put that part on your car, it will fix your car. So let's do it the other way around. You go down to Pep Boys or wherever. They stick the scanner in your car and they say, you need whatever, a water pump, or you need an oxygen sensor, and they sell you an oxygen sensor. Okay? And so you go home, you put the oxygen sensor in your car. It's easy to do. It's not that hard, right? Unless it's been in there for 12 years, or unless you don't have the tools, or unless you're fat like me and you can't crawl under the car, or whatever it is. But you get it done, and you put that oxygen sensor in, and you plug it in, and the light is still on. Okay, and you go back to Pep Boys and you say, you told me to put an oxygen sensor on my car, and I still have the same problem. What is Pep Boys going to do? Well, let's hook the scanner up again and see what other part you want. Parts houses are set up to sell parts, no matter what. That's their job. I am set up to fix your car. And so when I sell you that part, I guarantee that will solve your problem. Otherwise, I don't sell you the part. So my part comes with more. Dealerships, 25 years ago, if I could buy it for $200 at the dealership, they gave me 20% off, so they sold it for $240 to the customer. When they put it in the service department, it was still $240. That doesn't happen anymore. Some time ago, 15 years ago or so, the dealership said, holy crap, we're not making any money. So what are we going to do? We're going to mark our parts up 25 to 45% when we put them in the car. So, stop telling me, and I don't care, that you can go buy the part online. I know you can. Go into your favorite restaurant, Lucas. He's always eating steak, drinking good whiskey somewhere with somebody. I know somebody's paying for it. Last time Lucas paid, I didn't. I have to pay next time. It's making me mad. we didn't bring the steaks to the steakhouse.
Yeah.
And by the way, I can buy the steaks cheaper. Hell, I just bought a whole cow. I paid about $4 a pound. I've got really great steaks. I could take them in there for $4 a pound. There isn't a steakhouse in my town that would put my steak on the grill and serve it to me. Period.
So a couple of different thoughts that I have about this is, I think that shop owners have this concept in their head that if I'm busy and I sell this giant job that has all these hours,
busy is not profitable. Stop telling me how busy you want to be and start talking about how profitable you want to be.
Yep.
Do you want,
so
if you're losing $5 a car, Lucas, how many more cars do you want? Okay.
But how many shop owners do you see do that?
Oh, it's everywhere.
I'm going to get this engine job.
It's everywhere.
I go to put this engine in, but the GP per hour is in the tank. But they felt like they were doing something. They cut their margins to get the job.
But my guy's busy. He's busy.
And so he's busy. The other thing is something you brought up. And I was just talking to Jeremy and his wife who are here today touring the shop, right?
And I had a meeting with them, which they canceled so they could be at your shop. So I just want you to know, man, I'm not happy.
I'm a bad influence. But so one of the things that we're talking about is I said, I've watched all of these shop owners compare themselves to a tire store, compare themselves to these chain stores. And the problem is they don't understand. And the more I've become involved with the ASTA, which is now, it was the NCTDA, Tire Dealers Association, and IGO, the Independent Garage Owners in North Carolina, the more involved I became with those tire dealers, the more I realized they were buying millions of dollars worth of tires. So they got way better pricing than what I could get. They were buying millions of dollars worth of parts because they're moving a tremendous volume, and they spend millions on advertising beyond what I can do. And then on top of all that, they're getting the kickback on the tire on the backside of it. And I'm like, how is it that they sell all these tires and make all this money on tires? Well, they have a competitive advantage I will never have. But then when I think about that, watch it. What do? What do small shops do? They try and go compete and run the business model those stores run, match their prices and say, yeah, just bring it in. And they say, well, why is this so stressful and I'm not making money? Because you don't have the competitive advantage they have.
I'm buying the tire for $20 more than they're buying it for.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting the extra $10 or $15 out the backside. And I'm also not pricing out a $15, $22 warranty on the tire that they are. And whatever I do costs me more money. Why are we trying to compete with the tire stores? If someone is in my shop and they buy tires from me, they're not buying it from me because I'm the cheapest guy. They're buying it from me because it's convenient for them to have the tires done while I'm doing the other work. I'm not going to be cheaper than the tire store. I can't buy at their rates. There's no way. It's not possible.
Yeah.
I will never be able to do Brakes Plus or whatever they are out there. I will never be able to do a brake job at the same price that they do. They buy brake pads by the train load. I buy brake pads by the box. I don't pay the same amount.
So the important lesson in that is stop looking at other people trying to decide what your price should be, right? You can't look at somebody else's business and say, I should just be close to what they are on this. That doesn't work. You've got to know your numbers.
One of my guys, we should raise our price annually. We should get our customers used to an annual increase. Ought to be 3% at least, probably 5%. All right? Because we also got to catch up. And so I'm like, it's February, need to raise your price $7 an hour. He goes, oh, Cecil, I'm just not going to do that. Your choice. You're doing 450 hours. That's going to cost you about $3,700 next month in profit. Your choice, your money. Do what you're going to do. So I'm talking to him yesterday. He goes, I was by this dealership, and they're really a ratty place. And my friend works there, and that's why I stopped in. And I'm talking about it. And he goes, we're $150 an hour here. This guy's $115.
Right.
And he's like, we're better than this dealership. Then he goes home, and he's thinking about it, and he starts calling some of his friends that have shops, which I don't recommend. I don't care what they charge. But he's calling around, and one of his friends, who used to be like $100 an hour, he's now $140. And he goes, well, how did you get to 140? And he says, well, last time you and I talked, you said you were going to 115. And I thought, well, shit, we're better than them. So I'm going to go to 140. And he went to 140 and he called 4 different shops and they were between 140 and 150. And the dealership's 150 and he's 115. He won't raise his price. So I'm on the phone with him last night and he goes, I raised my price this morning to 140. And I said, I'm not going to say I told you so. You know, next. And at the end of the meeting, I was like, oh, before you go, told you. You know?
That's it. That's it.
I don't care what the other guy prices. We keep looking at the other guy. Well, I'm sorry. If I don't know, if 60% of the people in our industry, and I'm being generous, don't have any clue what their numbers are, how to run their business, how to build a financial model that's successful, how many gross profit dollars that they're supposed to have, what their effective labor rate is, what their gross profit margin is. If 60% of the industry doesn't know that, and that's one of the people I'm looking at, do I want to model my business after that guy? Or do I want to model my business after Lucas or at least somebody that knows what the hell they're doing? Or do I want to get a coach to help me understand my business? Because I guarantee you my clients make a hell of a lot more than the average industry person.
And so not Lucas. Don't look at Lucas.
Maybe David.
No, definitely not me. Yeah, a couple things. So I'm a big fan of Hell's Kitchen, the TV show. They have an entire episode where they have to go into a grocery store and buy $100 worth of grocery stores, and it has to be split up between 4 to 5 people. That at $100. So they have to go in, they have to find protein, sides, sauces, whatever. Then the basic like spices and stuff like that are in the kitchen. But they take that $100 and then they have to make something. And that plate of food then gets presented to a chef, and then Gordon Ramsay and the chef decide how much they would charge for that plate of food. And the team that can generate the most gross dollar wins. So that $15 that you just spent on groceries has to turn into a $40, $50, $60 plate of food. It's a regular grocery store that they're walking into. They're just buying stuff that is off the shelf. But these award-winning chefs are then looking at that food going, I would charge $55 for that. It's because you have taken your expertise, your creativity, and have put it into that and have elevated those ingredients to something that is valued at a higher price. That is no different than what we do in the repair process. And that comes, you made an excellent point in deciding that, hey, that part is of a quality, is of quality, and it isn't counterfeit. That has value. I don't know why it mystifies me that shops are buying retail parts. These are parts that are made for the do-it-yourselfer. That's what they are. They're parts for the do-it-yourselfer. That's what they're packaged as. That's what they're priced at. That's the warranty that comes with it. That's who they're sold to. They're designed around the do-it-yourselfer. Why are you buying that part? You know better. You know better. You know that sensor should be that particular make. That airflow sensor should be a Hitachi airflow sensor. Why? Because you're an expert. You know that should be a Hitachi. That original Hitachi airflow sensor lasted 150,000 miles, and that you know, if properly installed, properly diagnosed, you made sure the harness is good, you made sure the wiring has that weird kink that those old GM trucks used to get, that weird kink in the airflow sensor, and if you wiggled it, it would throw the sensor off, right? You know to look for that. And so what do? You don't sell the airflow sensor. You find a Hitachi airflow sensor. You sell an AC Delco harness with the big fat wires that, when properly installed, will outlast the original sensor and will go 160,000 miles because you knew how to properly find the repair or find the problem, source the part properly, and then properly installed it. It's not just, hey, I slapped a part store name brand airflow sensor into that car.
But hold on, David. I bought a Hamachi. It's close. And it's going to get the car out of my shop, and it's going to save the customer $40.
That's the problem. You as the boutique repair shop are trying to compete against the national chain store, that national chain store only cares about one thing: get that part installed and get that car out of here. That's all they care about. That's it. So what are they going to do? They're going to call the parts store up. Who's open till 7? Who's going to deliver until 7?
Who's got the cheapest possible part that I can put on?
That's it. And guess what? The parts store that's open till 7 is delivering till 7 has a retail do-it-yourselfer part sitting on the shelf ready for you. That's what they're going to sell you. And they'll slap that sucker in and ship it out the door. And you go, okay, that they installed that part with diagnostic testing for $400. If I find the Hitachi, put the sensor in, charge for the installation of the harness, charge for my diagnostic testing, and charge properly for that part, are going to be $650. I can't compete with that. They're charging $400, even if I have a higher warranty. Well, hold on now. It's not apples to apples. It's not even the same repair. You are sourcing a better part. You are giving them a better repair. That repair will outlast the original installation, from the factory installation. That off-the-shelf part is going to last 12,000 miles. That's it. A year from now, that sensor is going to fail.
You know the big problem, again, where's the hole? It's in the head. I'm comparing myself to that guy instead of that guy can't compete with me. He doesn't have the kind of techs I have. He's not using the Hitachi. He's not standing behind it like I do. The customer service is not the same. Think about this. I have to make this point. So we've got these franchise places. In a franchise, the franchise takes somewhere between 5 and 6%, 7% in some cases of the gross sales, whether the shop's profitable or not. Then they also take marketing dollars, 5.5%, 5%. I've got a franchise guy. He's paying 13.5% to the franchise. Now he's also trying to compete on price with everybody else out there that's cheap, and he's still paying 13.5%. How can that guy survive? What does he have to do? He has to lower the quality. He's got to put the Hamachi on because he can't afford the Hitachi because they're taking 13.5% of his net, And
he has to have a ridiculous amount of volume.
Yeah.
And so
he just has to pump the cars out as fast as possible at whatever quality.
Yep.
So talking about that, right? This last week we had a perfect example of this, and I was talking to a store manager about it. It's a Firestone, and the car comes to my shop. It's had a mass airflow sensor put in it, and it clearly was not the mass airflow sensor because the boost boot was blown off of it. The charge air tube was completely busted, right? And so I called the manager and I said, hey, before I have this conversation with the client, I wanted to talk to you. And he said, store policy is we'll refund him for the sensor if it didn't fix it, if he really pitches a fit. But he said, here's the deal. He said, when he comes in, we ask him, do you want us to do testing or do you want us to just pull the code and replace the part that it says? And he said, 90% of the consumers that come in the door, that's what they want. So we just give the consumer what they want.
Yeah.
Right? Now, guess what? The car comes to my shop and it didn't get fixed.
You know what we call that?
That's a big theme that's happening right now because there's coaches out there that are teaching, hey, we're giving the client what they want.
Do you know what we call that?
What they want, what they need.
You know what we call that in the medical practice or the law practice? We call that malpractice. Okay? You don't, a doctor doesn't come in. You don't go to the doctor and say, I want you to replace take my appendix out. No doctor in their right mind would do that. They are going to diagnose the problem. You're going to spend a ton of money having that happen because there's liability because they're the professional. We don't know who we are as an industry. We don't know what our business needs to look like. We think we're a franchise. We think we have to compete with the discount tire guys on tires. And so at the end of the day, we have a bunch of people complaining. The shop owner is treating us like crap. All right. And most shop owners I know, they would never want to treat their employees like crap.
Yeah.
Okay. Why does the employee perceive that? Because they're not getting paid in a way that they need to be paid. They're not being taken care of. Because I'm trying to compete on a franchise level when I'm not a franchise. I'm trying to compete on a dealer level when I'm not a dealer. All right. So, put your parts matrix in place, understand your business, understand the financials of the business, stand in front of your customer with pride and say, when I do that job, here's all the things that we're going to do. Here's the quality of the component. Here's the quality of the service. And that's going to be $650. And when the guy goes, but I can get it over there for $450, what's the answer? Of course you can.
You don't get me.
But cheaper is not necessarily better. It never is, in fact.
And if you cannot with confidence, if you cannot with confidence say my repair for that airflow sensor is better than anybody else's, fix that.
Yeah,
that will fix everything, because it isn't just in your head.
If
you are sloppy in your repair work, fix that.
Yeah, in our service advisor classes, the very first thing we work on is your thought process. How do I feel about my pricing? Because if you stand in front of somebody and you're not self-assured about what it's worth, you can't sell it for what it's worth. And it happens all day long because we think that fixing the car is the most important thing, and we're good at fixing the car. We don't understand that understanding the business and being able to sell it and have our customer feel confident and us feel confident is just as important as fixing the car.